The story unfolds amid a complex and dangerous world, shadowed by economic crime syndicates whose operations weave through the undercurrents of society like dark roots. At the heart of this narrative shines the figure of Miss Tieu, whose real name is Gwen Tra-Zhang, a woman of intelligence and talent, born into wealth but plunged into turmoil by forces beyond her control. She carries the burden of a mysterious accident that has not only taken much from her, but left her struggling with memory loss. The shadows haunting her past are intertwined with the sinister operations of ghost companies that facilitate illegal profits through forged invoices and smuggling. These ghost companies form a complex web, sophisticated networks used to covertly launder money and conduct illicit trade. Investigations into these illegal activities require vigilance and caution. The syndicate operates in fragmented cells, each group small yet dangerous, orchestrated with cunning to evade detection and enforcement. This compartmentalization allows them to confuse and mislead law enforcement agents. The threats they pose are grave. Those who challenge them face mortal danger. The stakes are intensified by territorial conflicts as gangs vie for influence to collect protection money, paralyzing legitimate businesses in the process and controlling transportation routes used for illegal trading. Authorities recognize the gravity. Danger lurks in every shadow of investigation. The background investigation into Miss Tieu reveals layers of pain and mystery. Once she was a promising young woman groomed by affluent roots. Her father, a successful businessman, violently taken from her by a malevolent figure years ago. Her talent and intellect brought her abroad for education and later employment in a corporate environment unknown to many. The reasons for her departure from that company and subsequent travel overseas remain obscured, veiled in secrets hinted at by unsettling mysteries surrounding the people residing at her grandparents' home and the enigmatic man known only as Mr. Kia. Questions arise. Is he an ally or an adversary? His presence shrouded in secrecy adds to the labyrinthine complexity of Tieu's current plight. Miss Tieu's accident, a violent event whose true orchestrators remained hidden behind the veil of her amnesia, seems linked to the sprawling ghost company network. The sinister business of phantom entities extends beyond mere profit. It reaches into the shadows of violence and betrayal, pulling innocent people like Tieu into its wake. Whispers among investigators hint that her tragic fate may have been a warning or punishment meted out by conspirators within this criminal nexus. Unraveling the truth demands courage, but the more they probe, the more dangerous the path becomes. Medical concerns weigh heavily on Miss Tieu's precarious situation. She suffers from severe eye damage, requiring treatment beyond the capacity of her current caretakers. The urgency of advanced hospital intervention is dire. Delays threaten permanent loss of sight. As if trapped within her own fragile body, her mind battles to reclaim lost memories that pain her whenever glimpsed. Each effort to grasp her identity stings with headache and despair. The labyrinth of her mind mirrors the tangled investigation unraveling her life story. Caregivers and relatives strive to protect her, yet she wishes to bear no burden on them, hiding her vulnerability beneath layers of mistrust and exhaustion. The investigation intensifies with a call for help to trusted contacts. Mr. Nam, a detective figure, is enlisted to trace the shadows enveloping Tieu's life. The pursuit to uncover who harmed her requires probing distant mountain refuges where she had been hidden to shield her from further peril. Those closest guard her fiercely, aware that the stakes extend beyond personal tragedy to wider crime syndicate confrontations. The need to secure her safety, restore her health, and extract truth from shadows creates a tense balance between medical urgency and growing menace. Everyday life intertwines with the investigation's echoes. While Tieu remains in sheltered care, routine tasks and simple pleasures offer brief glimpses of normalcy. Visits to the pumpkin and peanut gardens signal hope and recovery amidst ongoing trials. Yet these moments are fragile, overshadowed by the looming threat of syndicate retaliation and the complex maze of double lives and deception surrounding her. Unseen forces continue to weave their threads as new intelligence surfaces, and law enforcement braces for confrontations that may define the fight against widespread criminal corruption. Trust remains a delicate currency. Tieu's cautious soul watches the people around her, only trusting her grandparents and a few close allies. The kindness of Brother Henry, who promises aid for her eye treatment and protection, creates uneasy feelings. Her past, fragmented and painful, colors every interaction. Paranoia mingles with gratitude as she weighs each offer carefully. The scars of her past, both physical and emotional, guard her fiercely, even as hands reach out in support. The complexity of this tale reflects the multifaceted dangers borne by those caught in the crossfire between cunning criminal enterprises and the fragile hopes of healing and justice. From ghost companies manipulating legal facades for illicit gains to shadowy figures controlling smuggling operations, the net of organized crime extends broadly. Into this dangerous theater steps individuals like Tieu, whose personal tragedy and quest for truth illuminate the human cost beneath the headlines. Her journey is one of pain and resilience, a testament to the will to reclaim identity and dignity from the clutches of darkness. This first part of the story paints a vivid portrait of a woman caught within webs of crime, memory loss, and the desperate fight for health and truth. The investigation into the ghost company syndicates, the mysterious accident, medical urgency, and fragile trust sets the stage for unfolding drama, a tale as haunting as it is human, stretching across the hidden depths of modern-day crime and personal struggle. The night before the planned hospital visit, shadows lengthened like ominous fingers across the modest room where Nguyen Tra Giang lay. Her eyelids fluttered with restless dreams, memories tangled with fear and pain. The brightness of her past flickered dimly, images of overseas campuses, polished boardrooms, and a life of promise faded like a distant song. The sudden cataclysm that shattered this order remained a haunting puzzle, with every piece wrapped in uncertainty and dread. The ghost companies that operated beyond the gaze of the law seemed to close in, unseen yet palpably near, their malign influence casting long shadows over her very existence. The drive to the hospital came early the next morning. The caregivers moved with delicate urgency. Tieu's frail frame was supported tenderly, the silence broken only by the rhythmic crunch of tires on gravel. Each breath she took was woven with a silent plea for clarity, hope that this journey might not only save her sight, but also rekindle the lost sparks of memory. The sterile hospital corridors loomed vast and impersonal, a stark contrast to the warmth of her grandparents' garden and the fields where pumpkins and peanuts grew under the sun's gentle gaze. Inside the examination rooms, machines hummed and lights flickered. Doctors moved with practiced precision, their queries technical yet laced with concern. They spoke of advanced procedures, retinal scans, optic nerve assessments, interventions delicate but vital. The threat of permanent blindness loomed as a ruthless specter. Tieu, though weakened by pain and uncertainty, grasped at every word, desperate to cling to any thread of hope. The complicated machinery of modern medicine became a battlefield where she struggled to maintain presence amidst the fog induced by trauma and medication. A lurking question burdened those around her. Who would dare harm such a woman? The syndicates, hidden behind the veil of ghost companies, had reached far beyond payrolls and invoices. They held lives as pawns in a grand, ruthless game. The investigation led by Mr. Nam was one of cautious steps and whispered revelations. His inquiry traced sinister patterns linking the apparition firms to territorial disputes fought with brutal violence. Protection racketeering, smuggling, manipulation of legal facades, all merged into a sprawling network of crime resistant to ordinary justice. Henry's involvement grew both in warmth and complexity. His role was more than that of a mere facilitator or friend. Henry carried the weight of responsibility not only for Tieu's medical care, but for her safety in the face of mounting threats. His background, while modest compared to the wealthy lineage of Tieu's family, was marked by integrity and quiet determination. Their interactions were cautious dances, between trust and suspicion, between compassion and guarded silence. Tieu's shattered memories created barriers he could not immediately breach. The hospital stay was fraught with moments of medical urgency and quiet reflection. Tests were repeated, treatment plans adjusted, progress ebbed and flowed. Family members visited frequently, their presence a beacon amid uncertainty. The grandparents, stalwart and tender, relayed stories of the past in hopes of piercing the fog clouding Tieu's mind. Each recollection was a delicate act, walking the thin line between comfort and pain. The fractures of memory were jagged, sometimes exposing raw wounds, sometimes elusive like smoke slipping through fingers. Parallel to this personal odyssey, the investigation into the ghost companies intensified. Complex documents filled rooms and screens, false invoices, shell corporations, and laundered money trails weaving in convoluted patterns. New evidence introduced names and faces, some familiar, some frighteningly unknown. The syndicate's capacity for evasion was formidable. Their network stretched into legitimate businesses, corrupt officials, and unseen enforcers. Each discovery felt both triumph and vulnerability, progress shadowed by the risk of violent backlash. Among the chilling complexities was the realization that Tieu's accident was not random. It was a calculated strike against a woman whose knowledge or inheritance threatened delicate balances of power. The murder of her father years before was a grim prelude, a signal in a long chain of malicious intent. The man shrouded in mystery at her grandparents' home represented an unknown quantity, ally, enemy, or masked agent of the syndicate. The pieces of this dangerous puzzle required delicate assembling in a game where missteps cost lives. Trust became a fragile treasure. Tieu's guarded heart struggled to welcome hope or assistance. The fatigue of trauma and fear wrapped tightly around her spirit. Henry's efforts to provide comfort, medical, emotional, and protective, sometimes met walls of silence and sudden refusal. Moments of vulnerability cracked the barriers, revealing glimpses of a woman desperate to reclaim her identity, yearning for normalcy, yet shackled by uncertainty. Their exchanges, sparse but meaningful, carried the weight of unspoken fears and tentative hopes. Village life, away from hospital lights and investigation rooms, hummed quietly with cycles of seasons and small joys. The gardens where pumpkins burst orange under rain-soaked leaves and peanuts nestled in the dirt were arenas of healing labor and grounding routine. Grandparents tended these fields with quiet resilience. Their hands, though aged, cultivated life and hope. The extended family, too, shared this burden of care and hope, watching, waiting, cultivating patience amidst the storm. Communication with authorities remained cautious. Mr. Nam's investigation found itself slipping through narrow corridors of corruption and fear. Informants whispered of shadows within shadows, illegal cargo movement, false papers masking true ownership, protection money exchanged under veils of darkness. The network's reach solidified in tales of enforcement agents bribed or intimidated, voices silenced. Yet perseverance persisted. The drive to uncover truth and justice rooted itself in the resolve of those unwilling to abandon the innocent to shadows. The medical journey also brought moments of frustration and heartbreak. Tests revealed partial improvements. Occasional setbacks underscored the precariousness of healing. Eyesight, though protected from complete loss, remained clouded with uncertainty. Memories likewise came in shards, brief and painful flashes piercing the fog only to retreat. Each recovery step was both gift and trial. Caregivers worked with devoted patience, weaving medical science with emotional support in equal measure. Henry's role expanded beyond medical coordination to become guardian and confidant. The line between duty and care blurred as he remained a constant presence in the uncertain landscape of recovery and danger. Their relationship, silent conversation, shared glances, tentative trust gradually gave shape to a new anchor in Tieu's fractured world. Yet danger shadowed every moment. Threats whispered in coded messages and shadowed meetings underscored the risk at every turn. Tieu's slow return to a semblance of daily rhythm involved small victories. Walks in the hospital garden, visits from trusted friends, glimpses of the outside world brought fleeting relief from the weight of confinement. The struggle to reclaim selfhood unfolded quietly within the motions of recovery. Every clumsy step, every hesitant word was a defiant reclaiming of identity. The promise of brighter days hovered like fragile dawn scanning the horizon of her battered life. The investigation made new headway with traceable leads emerging from intercepted communications and financial audits. The syndicate's network, while vast, revealed vulnerabilities under relentless scrutiny. The hand of law enforcement moved carefully, aware that caution was paramount. Bravery met with patience pressed the shadowy mob toward exposure. Secret alliances within the syndicate were questioned. Fractures emerged in the facade of invincibility. The investigation made new headway with traceable leads emerging from intercepted communications and financial audits. The syndicate's network, while vast, revealed vulnerabilities under relentless scrutiny. The hand of law enforcement moved carefully, aware that caution was paramount. Bravery met with patience pressed the shadowy mob toward exposure. Secret alliances within the syndicate were questioned. Fractures emerged in the facade of invincibility. Conversations among caregivers revealed the complexity of trauma. Tieu's denial of certain painful memories was both protective and frustrating. The balance between encouraging confrontation with the past and guarding against mental collapse was delicate. Support meetings, therapy sessions, and gentle persistence became parts of the healing mosaic. The effort was a succession of small breakthroughs against encompassing pain. The community surrounding the family reinforced bonds via acts of kindness and solidarity. Neighbors brought meals, helped tend gardens, and kept watchful eyes. These simple acts wove a net of human connection strong enough to protect against isolation. Stories of struggle and survival passed among villagers, reminding all that no one walked alone in dark times. Shared meals and quiet conversations became balm for weary souls. Over time, Tieu's physical condition improved modestly. Vision restored partially, and memory flickered with increasing clarity. The mental haze slowly receded, allowing dreams and memories to reemerge. She grasped fragments of her story, piecing together the narrative stretched between wealth, violence, and survival. The emotional roller coaster brought waves of hope, sorrow, strength, and fear. Her story became not just a personal journey, but a symbol of resilience against overwhelming odds. The syndicate, while still menacing, faced an emboldened resistance. Authorities coordinated efforts across regions. More allies emerged willing to expose the underworld's grip. The grudges and wounds of a violent past began to yield to the tentative steps towards justice and healing. Tieu's final days in the hospital were a testament to quiet courage. The promise of a safer future shimmered as she planned her next steps with those she trusted. Recovery was ongoing, but each dawn brought new light. Memory, once elusive, reclaimed its place within her heart. The shadows around her began to thin, giving way to tangible hope. Truth, justice, and healing stood on the horizon. This extensive narrative portrays a modern tale of crime, memory, and survival, intertwined with hope and human connection. It mirrors the complexities of real lives caught in the crossfire of dark empires and the indomitable will to reclaim light from shadows. The story of Nguyen Tra Giang is a powerful reminder that even amid sinister networks and fractured minds, the human spirit endures, struggles, and eventually shines again. The night before the journey to the hospital stretched long and heavy in the quiet room where Nguyen Tra Giang rested. Her eyelids fluttered fitfully, haunted by visions of a life once lived in clarity and promise, now shrouded in shadows. Memories flickered like trembling flames, flashes of distant campuses abroad, sharp boardroom lights, the confident steps of a young woman destined for success. That life shattered violently, leaving her body broken and mind fragmented. Behind the calm surface of her transient sanctuary lurked an invisible enemy, the syndicate of ghost companies whose tendrils spread wide through the undercurrent of commerce, smuggling, and corruption. Their presence was felt but unseen, like a cold wind pressing against the fragile walls around her. At dawn, the caregivers gathered quietly, their movements precise and gentle as they prepared for the hospital journey. Tieu Cu's delicate form was supported with loving care, each step taken with cautious determination. The gravel crunched under tires, rhythmic and steady, punctuating the silence with purpose. Inside her chest, Tieu Cu's breath came shallow but intense, a silent prayer for healing, for reclaimed sight, and for the return of forgotten fragments of identity. The sterile halls of the hospital loomed vast and daunting, stark contrasts to the soft soil and rustling leaves of the pumpkin and peanut fields her grandparents tended. The laboratory lights and clinical hums felt alien, yet they promised a chance at hope withheld for too long. Doctors moved efficiently, their expert hands wielding technology that seemed like science fiction amidst the personal tragedy. Retinal scans, nerve assessments, and delicate procedures lined the day, instruments that held the power to save her eyesight from the brink of darkness. The threat of blindness hung heavy, a reminder of the cruelty fate had dealt. Tieu Cu, though fragile, clung to the whisper of possibility with every sterile breath she took. The battle for vision was also a struggle for clarity in a mind clouded by trauma and pain. Outside the hospital's walls, a separate war raged in shadow. The syndicate's ghost companies formed a labyrinthine network of deceit, their arms extending into trade routes, official offices, and dark alleys. These groups, compartmentalized into cells skilled in misinformation and evasion, played a deadly game of cat and mouse with law enforcement. Violence was a lurking threat. Those who dared oppose faced brutal consequences. Protection rackets strangled legitimate business, smuggling thrived under cover of legal shipments, and false documents obscured the movement of stolen goods. Investigators operated on thin ice, each discovery a step closer to justice and a potential trigger for retaliation. Within this dangerous maze, Tieu Cu's personal story unfolded. Once the heir to a prosperous family, she carried the invisible scars of her father's murder years before, a crime entangled with the syndicate's origins. Her decision to leave a corporate career and retreat overseas turned into a mystery shrouded with danger. The enigmatic Mr. Kia, residing at her grandparents' home, embodied the uncertainties of her fractured life. Friend or foe, ally or threat, his presence added a layer of suspense to an already tangled fate. Tieu Cu's physical and mental state remained precarious. Her eyes, damaged and vulnerable, needed urgent intervention that only advanced medical facilities could provide. Her mind was a battlefield of broken memories and recurring pain. Every attempt to recall her past brought piercing headaches, as if her psyche rejected the weight of truths hidden within. Those caring for her balanced honesty with protection, revealing pieces of her story carefully to shield her from despair while urging medical treatment. Her grandparents, steadfast and tender, provided refuge. Their home was a fragile sanctuary where the steady rhythms of gardening, pumpkins ripening under rain-spattered leaves, peanuts nestled deep in the earth, offered small moments of peace. Their love was a beacon amid chaos, but even here, shadows from the syndicate's reach crept invisibly. The balance between hope and fear was delicate, sustained by the strength of human connection in a world otherwise filled with menace. Enter Brother Henry, a figure both promising and enigmatic. His kindness transcended medical aid, bringing safety and companionship. His commitment to Tieu's care introduced a fragile new thread of trust, tested by years of trauma and guarded memories. Their interactions were veiled in tentative smiles and cautious gestures. Tieu's heart wavered between the yearning for connection and the instinct to protect herself from further pain. As days passed, the hospital became a battleground of fragile progress. Medical tests and treatments shifted between hope and setback. Vision, though partially restored, remained uncertain. Memory emerged like scattered stars, sometimes bright, often elusive and painful. The caregivers, with unwavering patience, wove medical skill with emotional support in an intricate tapestry of healing. Meanwhile, law enforcement dug deeper into the syndicate's shadows. Documents inked with falsehoods, the murmur of secret negotiations, the crackle of intercepted communications, all unveiled the depth and danger of the criminal web. The syndicate's hold was strong, but fractures appeared. Corrupt officials distanced themselves, alliances wavered, and the relentless pursuit of justice gained momentum. The investigators' steps were cautious but determined, aware that the slightest error could end in violence. Tieu's rehabilitation encompassed more than physical healing. The complexities of trauma required delicate care. She battled denial and pain, sometimes retreating into silence, sometimes reaching for glimpses of her past. Therapy and conversations with trusted figures became lifelines. Moments of breakthrough were treasured, precious beyond measure. Recovery was a slow dance of shadows and light. The rural community around her family added warmth and stability to this tumultuous tale. Neighbors offered food, care, and companionship. Simple acts, shared meals, garden help, quiet conversations, anchored the family in shared humanity. The collective resilience of a village became a wellspring of hope, proving strength in unity even against formidable forces. Tieu's journey culminated in quiet victories and renewed determination. Each day brought additional clarity, physical strength, and emotional resilience. Memory pieced itself into a coherent mosaic, revealing portraits of affluence, heartbreak, and enduring courage. The syndicate's power, once seemingly unassailable, now quaked under the relentless light of truth. The story closes with the faint glow of dawn after a long night. Tieu, resting beneath the watchful eyes of loved ones and guardians, stood at the threshold of healing and revelation. The criminal world that darkened her past faced exposure. The path forward promised recovery, justice, and reclaimed identity. The interplay of peril and hope forged a tale unforgettable, a testament to the relentless human spirit amidst shadows both visible and concealed.